superhero. Here I come, here I come. Now there I go, there I go. When you need me, you know how to let me know. Let me know. All you gotta do is holler. If you need a superhero. Cause I'ma hear you when you holler. When you need that superhero. Yeah. Gravita. When you need me, all you gotta do is holler. Gravita. Not for real, I'ma hear you when you holler. I'll be right there in my cape. FSK.
What's up, everybody? We're back for FSCon day number 3.
Sunday fun day.
I am Mike Watson, publisher of Freestyle Comics, and this is
Veronica Smith, colorist, editor.
And we are in the building for the first time on the third day of a FSCon show. Last year we did this thing completely virtual, but we said, F it, we going for it today. Full con weekend, having a great time. We're set up here at Comic Town. We're getting it started. I can't get started yet because, not fully. I'm gonna order a breakfast sandwich from across the street. I need some sausage and eggs, in my system.
Maybe hash brown.
Yeah, a little bit of hash browns. We woke up this morning and our Geronimo's tire had a flat, so we had to get some air into his tire so we can get home today. Hey, it's fun, man. You just got to roll with these punches. You got to duck and dodge. You got to keep maneuvering through and making things happen. But we will be here again. We got a full slate of some awesome panels to get through today. I can't wait to get through these. These are some of the juiciest ones that we have. Again, if you're in the Columbus, Ohio area roundabout, you got nothing to do today, come hang out with us. We got tons of comics. We got loads of products here for you guys to come check out. Plus, Comic Town is a dope comic shop. Shout out Comic Town, our home store, for hosting this event for us and our sponsor, one of our big sponsors. Oh, yeah. Brand new book just dropped from us. I want to shout out another sponsor, the Moana Nui podcast. They are awesome. They're spectacular. Go check their podcast out every Thursday night on the Agents of Geekdom Network. They have done a lot for us to help get us here. Also, Creative Control Fest, another sponsor yesterday. We were able to do something very special with our kids yesterday because of Creative Control Fest. I remember as a child going places with my mom and whatnot, and we would only have enough money to get in. And the show that I was at in Montgomery, Alabama, did something really cool where they created convention bucks, where they had a little bit of money and they gave it to the kiddos in these little cash money, these little cash things, and the kids got to buy things, and then the convention paid those vendors back out at the end of the day, and that way kids didn't have to worry about not having any money and just having enough money to get into the show, and they got to participate in stuff. And because of Creative Control Fest, we got to do that yesterday with the kids. As soon as I told them that they had hey, look at this guy, look at him.
I know you would have cried if I wouldn't have got you one.
But I wish you guys could have seen it yesterday, how excited the kids were when I was like, hey, kids, come here. Oh, y'all, come here. Guess what? They was like, what you talking about? I was like, no, y'all got some money. This is y'all's budget. Go check out each one of the tables around here and go buy you some. Go buy you something, but keep track of it though, because you ain't got that much of a budget, but you got a little something here to dance with. It was cool, man, watching them buy and support all the tables here yesterday. So shout out Creative Control Fest. Thank you for that. We really appreciate it. But hey, let's get it cracking, man. I'm about to bring up my man who is up super early in California to host this panel for us. So this is about to be a good one, y'all. Let me give it up for my man, Michael.
Yo, what's up? Nerd Soul Light, NERD, SOUL, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, podcast, all that jazz. Nice to see y'all. Early morning from beautiful, sunny Los Angeles, California.
Hey, shout out. Thank you, man. I appreciate you for doing this, hosting it. But we're about to get it started. Our panel today, the first one is making a story flow. Woo! We got some talent. We got some talent here. I don't know if Brian J. Lambert watched the rest of the show yesterday, but we did officially announce him taking over the writing duties for Emerald Quest, starting with issue number 5. A lot of people were excited about that. My man Brian writes some books, man. He writes some books, so we're very excited to have him bring his talents to that comic book. Ted Sakura, I am a huge fan of Ted Sakura and his work, man. So I've got all their books. I see him at all the shows. The man is a beast. Jeremy over here is incredible with his podcast and his voiceovers and his reviews and stuff. So I'm very interested to see how you guys work this panel up and talk about stories. But I'm done hyping y'all up. I'm gonna get y'all out here and do y'all thing.
Oh man, this what's up. We got Jeremy, we got Brian, we got Ted. What's up, guys? How's it going? It's awesome to see y'all. We are here, of course, like you said, making a story flow. We want to say thank you. Shout out to Freestyle Comics, everybody supported. Shout out to Columbus, Ohio, all y'all doing y'all thing. But it's all about stories, all about moving them characters forward. So we can get everyone introduced. I'm gonna start, as you can see on your screen, kind of like a round robins. I'm gonna start with Jeremy, then after Jeremy, Brian, then after Brian, Ted. But introduce yourself and what you work on.
Greetings, my name is Jeremy and Herald of the Suri Monster. I'm a reviewer, podcaster, illustrator, and inspiring author, and I focus on short stories, particularly the horror genre.
Okay, and just so you know, you are breaking up like a little bit, like it's doing a robot-y thing a little bit, but we gonna be all right. Sorry, Brian, go ahead, sir. Oh, you're muted.
Talking to myself over here. I had like a whole full-on conversation. But also, it's early for me on the West Coast too. I'm also on Cali time, Mike. So I feel your pain and you feel mine. I'm Brian Lambert, Wingless Comics. My flagship title is Justice. We just finished up issue 3. We're going to be moving into issue 4. We also did a crossover series with Concept Moon and Constant Hustle Comics called Nightfall. I edit for everybody, man. I like to say like I'm your favorite writer's favorite writer, to steal a quote from quite a few people. But obviously I'm taking over for Emerald Quest, which I'm really, really excited for. I've worked with Concrete Comics, Greg Anderson, Elise, Robert Jeffrey, 133 Art, kind of anybody out there I like to try to learn from and do my thing.
Nice. Ted?
Is my audio working?
Yep.
Okay. I'm the president of Hero Tomorrow Comics, and I'm also a filmmaker. Actually started my career doing films, and I do a lot of documentary work where you're, kind of just shooting interviews and trying to make a story after the fact. So I've felt that that's kind of helped my comic book creation process as well. We do 4 books so far. We have Apama, the Undiscovered Animal, Tap Dance Killer, Punchline and the Vaudevillains, and Bloom.
Oh, okay. I'll throw this out to anyone who wants to, go in and jump on this question first. When it comes to, just writing in general, when you were first getting started, when you first started, coming up with ideas just on the most base level, what was that story or that movie or that show that inspired you?
I guess I'll jump in. I'm an 80s kid, so I feel like we had quite a few things that you could jump off of them really easily. My favorite, or what started me novel writing, not comic writing, was Willow, man. I loved Mad Mardigan. He was the greatest character I had ever seen as a kid. And so that got me into like medieval lore and ancient Japan, and so you start to tumble into different things through what we see through visual medium and things like that. So for me, again, it was like those kind of movies that Lucas film stuff that was happening at the time. There again, a lot of expansive movies. You had like The Running Man. You had a bunch of sci-fi ideas coming out at the time, sci-fi and fantasy ideas, but they weren't necessarily fully developed. In certain cases, they made great movies, but the properties themselves weren't necessarily developed. And I always just wanted to do more. Like I think everything I did, like a lot of us, started as fanfic in my brain, and then it became something else as I grew and got more knowledge and created and kind of started to perfect the craft of writing and storytelling.
Nice, nice. Ted?
Yeah, well, I was a decade earlier. I was '70s kid, so really for me it was comics, and especially Amazing Spider-Man. The '70s Marvel stuff really hit me. There was such weird stories going on. You had like the Man Thing, and then early '80s, the first Moon Knight series really was impactful on me. It just seemed so much edgier, and then getting into like TV, like Twin Peaks. I just love the surreal nature of that. Alejandro Jodorowsky, one of my favorite directors. Yeah, but I tried to also just derive influence from music as well. A lot of musical theater and Van Halen or whatever. I try to not I try to pull influence from a lot of different places, I should say.
All right, cool, cool. Last but not least, Jeremy.
Can you hear me better now?
So
Not it's still kind of breaking up a little bit,
Hmm, not sure.
but we'll yeah. I don't know if it try turning your mic off and turning it back on. Maybe that'll work.
Okay.
But yeah, the thing about like Willow, I like that. I like that hit a lot. The the movie Willow when I was little was pretty cool and good to get a Van Halen reference.
Yeah.
Good to get a Van Halen reference in here. So yeah, definitely. I like to hear that, especially getting that inspiration, especially from the music side, because I did want to after we get Jeremy's input. Jeremy, you back? You ready to or well I did want
Is
to
it better?
get nah, it's still but go. Let's go and see if it kind of like works itself out. Or oh, never mind. He'll probably be back. I did want to get all right, cool. How you
Uh,
sounding?
I don't know. I hope I sound
Better.
better.
Go,
Yeah,
go.
better.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
go.
One of the shows that inspired me to write was Tales from the Crypt, as well as Candyman. I grew up watching those when I wasn't supposed to, and I would sneak and turn it to the horror channel and watch that, and that's what kind of inspired me to do more short form storytelling. And
Mhm.
I fell in love with it from that point on, and I knew it was something I wanted to do.
Nice, nice. I'll start off with Ted with this one. Since we're talking about making a story flow, for you, when it comes to the characters that you're crafting, putting together, whether it's just their own, their own story or interpersonal relationships, is it more about the journey or the destination? Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
okay, great question. For me, and I use this analogy all the time. I think I used it yesterday, but you asked it exactly as I would answer it. I feel like I'm on a journey across country, and I'm going to stop, but we're not taking any highways. We're stopping at any cool little village along the way, and that's kind of how, within the pages of our Apama book, we introduce this woman, Nikki St. Clair, who becomes a tap dance killer. Images of her were being liked and shared by the thousands, which really wasn't happening for our main character. So launched her into her own book. It didn't stop Apama's book, but it did shift our focus for 5 issues. And then within that one, there was an opportunity to introduce another character. This Punchline heavyweight boxer becomes a super-powered murderous clown. Now he's in his own series, and yeah, I think the journey is everything in comics, and I know where we're headed, but I'm not really in a big hurry to get there. I wanna explore everything along the way.
Cool, cool. Jeremy?
I agree. The journey is most important, and I think reminding readers what the purpose of the journey is throughout is also important. That way, people are like, "Why am I reading this?" Just constantly reinforcing the purpose behind the journey.
Okay. So, Brian.
I think I'm with the journey as well. I actually hope that my characters never reach their destination, right? Because that's the end. So I feel like all of us are like that. And I think that to kind of go off a little bit script here, I think that was one of the problems maybe with the Star Wars sequel trilogy is that you had characters reach their destination, characters that people weren't necessarily ready to let go, right? Because even when you have codas at the end of a book and it says, oh yeah, 20 years later such and such got married and they did whatever they did, there's still room for them to do. So when we're watching these characters and even when we're watching our own lives, we like to see what's happening. The destination is never, we know Wolverine reached his destination when we learned his origin. And I don't know about you guys, but that was probably one of the most disappointing moments in comics. It was great when he didn't know who he was and he was still trying to figure it all out. And then we got his origin and it was like, well, that's it. So in terms of storytelling, I guess even going back historically, you reach a goal, but you never really reach the destination of a character. And once you do, that character is dead, both literally and figuratively.
Okay. I see where you guys are going because I will say I'm one of those people that like hard endings, but I see where you're going. I see because we do have, especially when it comes to Justice League, Justice Society, X-Men, Avengers, we have this like long soap opera where it's like it's like Dallas or Young and the Restless. Where it's like hasn't this guy been married like 8 times?
He's a vampire.
You have these long sweeping dramas where Spider-Man he's been young, he's been older, he's been young again, he's been cloned, the clones disappeared, I think the clone's back now. Aka's been the Spider, there's been Iron Spider, he's been unmasked, people forgot he'd been masked again. There's all of those things. And they all kind of help add to the mythos of what readers or new readers kind of go through. In the way you build these stories, what is important for you to put in their way as they kind of grow and move on? Is it more kind of like love? Is it a hate thing? Is it just a genuine struggle or general struggle? Like, what are things that come in your mind like, oh, I want to make sure my characters face this or face that? And I guess I'll throw that out to anyone who wants to jump on it first.
I would say it's pressure. Like it's so easy to see someone triumph through adversity. But it's like they said earlier, it's the journey. So just keep stacking the pressure. Keep putting them through things, not to the point where you feel like I'm watching something and I'm getting depressed. But it should feel like a video game. And I feel like that's why shows like The Mandalorian were successful, because he lost the armor, got the armor back, got a new weapon, like lost Grogu. Of course, I'm spoiling the whole show for anybody who hasn't seen it. But
I mean, it's available at home, and
Right.
like all this. I have a rule about like it's available at home, y'all. Like,
If they haven't seen it by now, 2 years later, man, I feel like it's not spoilers at this point. Just
you're
go
not
off, bro.
interested in seeing it. It's okay.
yeah, but he got beat up pretty bad, and to quote an older 80s film, RoboCop. I mean, talk about disassembled. You know what I'm saying? Like, the man went through it, lost his hand, lost his life, he lost his whole body. But we saw him bounce back and, become a cyber cop or android for that part. And just seeing people overcome that adversity, I feel like it gives people hope in real life.
Okay. Anyone else?
I would say for me, it's equally important to what even more so, I think, important than the battles or the fights or what they're going on with their personal lives. And for instance, in our Apama book, our guy drives an ice cream truck for a living. So, well, he's not your brilliant Peter Parker or wealthy Tony Stark, and there's no Avengers helping him out when things get out of control. So, you know, he's got a whole bunch of different kinds of challenges, mainly that he's just not very bright, and that's part of where I hope the humor of the book comes out. It's this very, kind of early take on a superhero, where it's just one guy and we're introducing villains one at a time. But the supporting cast, all that stuff is where I think, in my opinion, especially you look at a guy like Spider-Man again, where I think Peter Parker is so interesting. His supporting cast with Harry and Harry's father and the Gwen Mary Jane triangle thing, like that is where we see ourselves in the characters. We recognize these kind of relationships, and yeah, the battles. In a comic book, you got to have that kind of stuff, and hopefully you can tell it in a fresh way. But if you can get somebody to believe in the struggles that this character has just in their personal life, I think you're going to be so much better off. And I think that's where I do feel like when I read a lot of stuff, that's what I find missing so much. I especially with DC characters, I always think the Marvel characters have so much more humanity, and there is that old expression that the DC big characters, their disguise is their sort of alter ego, or Clark Kent or Diana Prince or whatever. But like in Marvel, it's the human first, and the costume is the powered character.
Gotcha. Brian?
I think it's I think that there's like a nuance to it, right? Well, there should be nuance to everything you write, but the nuance being that you don't need to set things in front of your characters if you're writing your own characters, because they run into things themselves. Any writer will tell you that they start on a story and it's going one way, and then something comes out of nowhere in a line of dialogue, in their adversary, in the setting, where the human takes over, where the story evolves itself. And so you get these layered characters that are going through a multitude of things, right? So they are their own worst enemy as they are characters. So I think that that's a huge part of it. But if we're talking about like mainstream characters, because they have that long soap operatic kind of history, you have to write them differently. The one of the problems that we see in modern day, I think some of the writing is, you can't write Superman, what does he do every time? He just punches somebody in the face. Like that's ultimately what's going to happen. We're gonna have 8 issues, right? Like we're gonna have this whole great thing, and at the end of it, he's just gonna punch Dr. Manhattan in the face. Like that's literally what happens. And then they write Batman the same way, and they're like, oh man, we did this kind of mystery and we don't know what's happening. And then he punches Joker in the face. And that like is what makes it. That's why people are like, oh man, the story was dope. And then it wasn't, right? So you have to write them differently. Superman's struggles are not going to be physical. Superman should be more of a cerebral comic in terms of like what he has to go through and why he's doing it. Whereas Batman actually should be, even though it's a cerebral comic and it's a detective comic, it should be more physical in nature at the end of the day. Because what are you going to do? Look, man, the Joker has poisoned the city. He's done this. There's a time clock. I'm punching this dude in the face. Like, that's the dude you punch in the face. Because, like, okay, I don't have no time to figure out no riddles or no jokes. Just where's the code, right? Like, that's what it should be. So,
where's the code?
Right. Like that was the one thing. Don't get me started, but that was the one thing Nolan got right. Like, where's the trigger? Punch him in the face. Where's the trigger? Punch him in the face. Like, just give me the thing. So I think when we're talking about these genre pieces and these certain character pieces, you've got to be kind of two minds about it. You've got to let your own characters evolve and create their own adversaries. Because like Ted said, like he had one character that's the flagship character, and then another one gets shared 1,000 times, right? So you got to be like, you have to pivot a little bit to give them their due to create this great story. Whereas you have a built-in audience and a built-in everything. If you're writing Marvel, if you're writing DC, if you're writing Image, if you're writing Boom necessarily.
All right. To step back a little bit from, writing in general, or, well, I say the journeys in general. I mean, to make a story flow, you have to actually get to something that's going to make it to the page. And sometimes I've come across people that see people that are writing comics, on the pro level or in the indie space, that are just like out there selling books on the indie level, doing it up, living the pro lifestyle. And I know these guys are like, yeah, living it up, bud. Yeah. but speak to how many edits you have to go through or you go through before it makes it because a lot of people think you just, hey, I wrote it, hey, there it goes. And to give people a sort of a look at how long or how many drafts, how in depth it goes, how many times you chisel this, sculpture before it's finished. I guess I'll throw it to Jeremy.
Oh man, it's a nightmare. I can tell you. As a skilled and experienced beta reader and someone who shares their work with their peers, you get a little bit of everything from everybody. And you kind of got to pick and choose what you're going to take. And that's the most difficult part in my experience. From a group of people telling you, I want more emotion, I want more romance. And then another side is like I want more violence and carnage. And now your word count is expanding. And then you still have to edit that. So I want to say I entered a short story competition and I had to revise my story several times. And it started off as just a character piece, maybe 3 to 4 characters, just to focus on the development. And by the time I revised it several times, it was like a light epic fantasy. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's what the people want. That's what they're going to get. And yeah, like it's quite the journey, and it's something I enjoy. And like Brian said, let it become a life of its own. Let it evolve naturally and organically based on feedback.
Okay. Ted?
Yeah, my process is kind of weird. Like, so, and it's one of the reasons I've kind of struggled with the term calling myself a comic book writer because I don't feel like I can just sit down and write a finished comic book script. At the same time, I'm doing so much more than what a writer would do. So, for instance, I will write a script, I give it to the artist, and he sends me back very rough layouts. Just, you can barely tell what's going on the page. But at that point, I go right into Illustrator, drop it in full page size, and I letter it. And, I can see if, first of all, is this even working thematically from panel to panel? But then I see my dialogue on the page, and I'm like, man, that's a bad line, and so I fixed it right there. And then, oftentimes I have to redo a layout. I send it back, with the lettering in it that I've put in, and now I get the pencils back, and then I drop it back into Illustrator, and I'm looking at it with my dialogue again, and my captions, and I'm like, man, I like this, I like this. This one panel is driving me crazy. I can't find the right dialogue, but I know it's a problem, and I still got months probably working on this before I have to figure that out. So, I'll work on it again, and then I approve it. I get the inks back, same process, drop it in, and then I finally figured out that line of dialogue. And
Nice.
then I do the coloring myself, where I also have a chance to, alter how this story feels on the page. And then it drops back into Illustrator, and then it's just so for me. And what you said, chiseling it down, it's like this big block that it gets more and more defined. And by doing my own lettering and my own coloring, I have this opportunity to really make the story flow, which is what I think is one of the to this method, I think that's a real benefit, when you can, and I think any writer would benefit from playing with Illustrator. You don't have to be able to do finished balloons or captions, but to give that to your letterer and say, this is what it should be, you will be amazed at the opportunities that you have. And also, being able to tell the artist, hey, I need a little more dialogue here. You're going to have to drop this down so there's more room. Because a lot of artists, they just, they draw what looks good in one panel, but they're not thinking about the captions as much as they should. And it actually makes their job easier because sometimes there's less to draw, and then they can spend more time on the detail of what will be seen. So, yeah, that's
So it kind of gives them a roadmap, sort of, as okay.
mhm.
Nice.
Uh,
But go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, no, my fault. I'm definitely like Ted, and that means that I'm editing all the way up to and through the lettering phase as well. But I think to a finer point, I've edited for Mike Watson. I've edited for Ace Blade, Danny Quick, Lonzo, Star, everybody at Wingless Comics, Greg Anderson, Elise, like I said, Robert Jeffrey, a bunch of people, right? The reason I say that is because in our circle and in our jokes, I'm called the Suge Knight of indie comics. And that's because I guess I'm a bully when I edit and I'm like, go back and do it again. That doesn't make sense. Tell me this. So, I mean, we'll go through most editing sessions. I'll edit the book, and then whoever I'm with, we'll get on a call and stay on and go through each edit for an hour, hour and a half, or whatever we need to do. So it's a lengthy process, but it's a process that I think is worth it, and it's necessary in terms of not losing that, right? Because as storytellers, we have a story in our brain, right? And so what I often tell people is if you have to say what you don't understand is when they're explaining it to me, then that means it's not on the page either. And so your readers won't understand it. But we do that a lot because we know the story. So we can take this logic leap from A to D, but the audience can't follow that. It doesn't make sense to them. So there's not a quote, but like a meme from Joe Biden, where he's like, we've got a million trillion. That's how many edits I do. That's how many edits we do. A million trillion billion. And then you finally get something on the page and it looks like, oh yeah, man, we cranked this out in 2 weeks. Nah, man, it's always brewing and it's always going. And it's a never ending cycle. Cause I feel like all of us, we've all published something. So there've been times that we get it and the published work is out there and we're like, shit, I missed, but you hope that it just kind of works. Because again, it is a process. It's not just easy, bang, bang, bang. And it's done.
If I could add something to that,
Go ahead.
I think it's also important to get it in somebody else's eyes who doesn't know your character so well. You know, when you feel like it's close to done, really have some people that you can have read it before it goes to press, and I'm amazed at, after even a million trillion edits, the stuff that somebody who doesn't really know the work will come up with. And it's just like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. That really doesn't, make sense. Or there's this huge typo that somehow everybody missed. So yeah, keep fresh eyes on it as well.
Yeah, fresh eyes definitely help. There's a comic series right now that is pretty well received, pretty popular. And even in, I think the first volume, I was reading it and I got from the first to the second volume, or like maybe at the end of the first volume, and I was like, did I miss something? Like, I feel like I missed like 3 pages, like 2 or 3 pages. And I'm like, this is good. Like, it's well drawn. I like the story. I'm into like the style of like the style of book. I'm trying not to I'm interested in the style of book, but I got to a part where I was wondering if I had missed something, because there's like this jump and they don't ever go back and say, they just kind of like jump like, okay, now these people are fighting. And I was just like, no, like I know they're bad, but weren't y'all like somewhere else before you got here? And so yes, that happens. I mean, that's even happened in television, and movies, where I've been like, hey, hold on, did I miss an episode? Like something's, I feel like I got lost somewhere, and I know I'm watching every episode. But speaking of episodes, speaking of movies, are there any recent? Because I know, people. We brought up Star Wars. We even have J.J. Abrams coming out. I mean, after we knew, but J.J. Abrams coming out, be like, hey, we didn't have a plan.
Right.
I'm like, you spent $1 billion. You spent over $1 billion with no plan. look, I'm sorry. As someone with a budget, I have every plan for my dollars. I don't know but they knew their plan was book bags, T-shirts, lunch boxes. That was their plan.
But that's always
anyway.
J.J. Abrams. Real quick, that's all. Okay, so let's not be fair to J.J. Abrams, but let's call it what it is, right? He does very good beginnings, right? Like Dark, Gilligan's Island. Oh man, that's a great show. And then how are we going to end this? It's time travel. Like he does that with he starts really well, and it's cool ideas that we've always wanted, right? Because he's like a nostalgia freak, which is great. I love J.J. Abrams, so don't get it twisted. Hey, J.J. Abrams, if you happen to see this, I love you, whatever. But the fact of the matter is he starts really well, then he hands it off to somebody without telling them, like, this is where I'm going to go. And then they do some stuff, and then he's got to come back in like, man, I got to clean up what you guys did wrong. And it's like, but if you had told them the whole time, it wouldn't have been wrong, bro. Like, you just gave me this and said do some stuff, and I did it wrong. Like, but if you go at every series, look, that's Alias, that's Jack and Jill, that's everything he's ever done is that setup. If you look at it, he starts it off really well. He turns it over to somebody and it goes off the rails. And then he comes back and he like patchworks up. Like he puts like a Band-Aid on a flood. He's like, oh no, we got it. This is cool, right? And then, and then that's the ending. And everybody's like, I don't what? Every single one of them.
I guess this is okay. But is there a story in recent history, say like in the last 10 years, that you felt flowed extremely well? Things that you can call out that kind of you were like, oh, okay, kudos.
I'll say this, you know, and I'm kind of drawing a blank, unfortunately, because I do, but what I did start watching, because we're in the process of trying to develop our whole world in like this TV pitch, and I subscribed to Masterclass. You know,
Me too. Yes.
Yeah, $189 for the whole year, and I am just devouring these things. I absolutely love it. I'm learning so much. The James Cameron one was fascinating. Shonda Rhimes, I mean, she's just a monster. I mean, I just can't fathom how her mind works. But the guys who did Stranger Things also, the Duffer Brothers just did one, which super inspiring, and it's all about what we're talking about. You know, how you make a story flow and all this stuff. And so, you know, as you guys go through the circle, I may come up with a better example of like an actual movie or something that I thought was a really solid story. But I tend to just go back to I'm rewatching a lot of stuff I used to like back, you know, David Lynch stuff again or something like that.
All right, well, I'll jump off of what you just said to throw it, and I guess I'll throw it to Jeremy first. Stranger Things.
Yes.
I know it's kids running around with a whole bunch of nostalgia, but wow, there isn't one season where I'm like, oh, that's trash, or I don't like, and they're handling like, there's like 15 characters. There's like 5 adults, 5 kids, and then like 4 ancillary people. Like they're juggling and everybody gets their little shine. Like they're really, the Duffer Brothers are actually really killing it, where there's way too many characters in the show. If you sat down and looked at other shows, you'd be like, there's way too many people in this. But somehow everybody gets their moment to have their one-on-one with their brother, with Mike, or someone gets their moment to cry with Lucas, and you're like, wow, you know what? I'm really satisfied with what everybody went through. And that, to me, every season that I'm thinking, nah, they'll probably fall off this season. You know, I mean, hey, come on. And then you look, you're like, you know, I had a good time watching this. but for me, I think I'll throw out Stranger Things, especially since they're coming to their final season, and it looks like they're going to be holding it down. But I'll throw it to Jeremy.
I agree. Stranger Things is a great example. For me, it would be recently Netflix's Sandman. There's an author named Wayne Hall, and one of her rules for writing stories, particularly short stories, that I love is that 4 to 6 characters per episode or per chapter. And I think that's one of the ways that Stranger Things and the Sandman is able to develop those characters, make you care about them. They give us a physical trait like the Corinthian. Like, we know who the Corinthian is because of the shades. We know he's charming. So we don't need to know anything else about him other than those things. So just keeping those 4 to 6 characters on screen at a time, we're able to internalize their mode of who they are. And that's what makes the story so effective. Even as fantastic as the Sandman is, I mean, you're not going to forget those costumes. You're not going to forget those looks. And don't even get me started on death. Like, that episode had me in my feelings. You know what I'm saying? And just the way they presented her and the bargain her and her brother made about the guy wanting to live forever. That episode just solidified that character forever. We don't need to revisit his motive. We don't need to. Why is he doing this? Why does he look this way? We already know. We have a whole hour with those 46 characters, and we got them forever. And I can't wait for season 2.
Cool. Brian?
I'm gonna say obviously on the Stranger Things train. So I jumped on the Stranger Things train kind of late. I had a lot of people telling me it was great, but I feel like they built those first like 3 to 4 episodes, which made them a little bit slower. But then the payoff that we've gotten in the next 4 seasons was worth it. Also, I think the Duffer Brothers have done it intelligently in terms of there's a big bad, there's something that they've got to defeat, but everything in all the show is about the relationships. It's not really about necessarily going and chasing down evil. It's about saving people as opposed to like just outright battling evil until like the last season or whatever, because it's rushing towards the end. But for me, there are a couple notable works, man. Train to Busan was amazing. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but the story forming on that in terms of giving you a zombie story of a different kind and in a different form, I think was amazing. Top Gun Maverick, bro. Best movie of the year to me so far. Oh my God. Now I can't spoil it because I wanted to spoil it.
Man.
Oh, go see it. So Top Gun Maverick. Now I haven't seen Woman King, which I heard was really, really great as well. But if we're just talking about like a movie, I'm not talking about a film. I mean a movie. Top Gun Maverick is probably the best sequel or top 5 sequels ever made. It's also like quote unquote the best
absolutely
reboot
right.
in history, right? Like if you want to call that. Thank you. See,
Sorry,
he had to chime in, right? Completely true. What else? What was the one? The game. Oh God, what was it? It's from Korea as well. What you call
Squid
it?
Game.
Squid Game is an excellent series. So there are a lot of really really deep story. But again, I feel like all of them have a thing happening. But what's really important is the relationships that are formed. I'll use Michael Bay real quickly because everybody kind of gives Michael Bay junk, right? And I'm still a Michael Bay fan. I haven't watched Ambulance or whatever it is yet, but I still like the guy. But if you go from Bad Boys 1 to Bad Boys 3, Bad Boys 1 had the props and the explosions and the guns, right? But what was it really about? It was about Martin and Will, and their interaction and how they did what they did, and one being the strong, silent, and one being the funny and loud. But like both of them, they were equally matched. Now, as the series progressed, that dynamic changed. Will became like the biggest, smoothest, coolest, shootingest dude in the universe, and Martin became basically like your pratfall comedy kind of guy, right? And so that is a degradation of those series, and that, you know what I mean, like that kind of story forming. Robert Jeffrey just dropped in the chat, Arcane and Castlevania. Yes,
Classics,
sir. Yes, 100%.
But notice we keep bringing up Netflix.
Netflix story forming is killing it, bro.
Netflix be holding it down. But
yeah. So I will say also, if we're talking about book to series things, don't sleep on Amazon Prime. Jack Ryan was good. Terminal List is good. A League of Their Own is good. They've got a couple that come from some source material that has been they've been pretty amazing.
True that. So I know we're coming up on time. I want to thank all of you guys for coming through. Of course, thank you to Freestyle Comics. I'm going to throw it again. I'm going to go out to Ted first. Of course, what are you working on now? Where can people find you?
Yeah, we just released our 12th issue of Apama last week, and Hero Tomorrow is the website, herotomorrow.com. I'm also on, Ted Sakura on any of the social medias, as is Hero Tomorrow.
Nice. Jeremy?
I'm working dropping horror stories for every day of October on thestorymonster.com. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at The Story Monster.
All right. And Brian?
We just finished up Immortalis on Kickstarter. We're going to be launching her #1 next month, so you guys stay tuned for that. We're Wingless Comics on Facebook and Instagram. We're Wingless Entertainment on Twitter, winglessent.com, and you can find me obviously on all the various social media platforms as well.
Nice. And of course, I am your humble moderator, Nerd Soul, NERDSOUL. You can find me online anywhere. You just search that up. But I am mostly on YouTube, streaming on the weekends, except this weekend, because it's all about freestyle comics. But we are covering, like Atlanta, doing some gaming. We got Nerd Soul Light over here. And covering Rings of Power, as well as me dropping a whole bunch of audio, asking you token questions, because as someone who's seen the movies but hasn't really delved into it, like I don't know Tolkien universe like I know Star Wars. So I have a whole bunch of questions for all my Tolkien peeps out there, and you guys have been helping me answering those questions. I've been dropping those as I've been watching The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So thank you. But yeah, with that said, I thank the panelists once again. You guys are awesome. And I'm ready to throw it back over to Mr. Watson. Randy's favorite brother.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Like I said, I knew that was going to be a good panel, and it was a good panel. Those guys are awesome. Please go support, go follow them. Check out all their stories.